and then they push it like this, and it falls down and hits another kid and knocks them out. You see, so whenever you see a ladder, it has potential energy. And if you push it so that it falls down, you're going to get hurt or you're going to hurt somebody. So ladders that are laying around, that are still upright against the wall, they're actually potentially dangerous because they have potential energy. And if someone pushes it, it'll fall down and knock someone on the head and knock them out or kill them. It could kill them, yes. Yeah, yeah. But see, if you get up on the ladder, you're going to be pushing it, right? If you don't get up on the ladder and there's no wind or no one pushing it, it's not going to fall down. But because you got up on a ladder, your weight could push it, and the floor might be slippery, who knows what, and then you can fall along with the ladder because you're increasing your potential energy by going up on a ladder, right? You're expending energy to produce potential energy. Your motion, your kinetic energy, by going up the ladder, is producing potential energy in your body by being above the surface of the floor. So you always have to be careful. If you understand potential and kinetic energy, then you suddenly realize, oh, there's a ladder left in the temple room. Someone forgot to take it down. It has potential energy, and that could be dangerous. Or if you're a little kid and you're climbing up on jungle bars, you're expending your energy to climb higher on the jungle bar, and now there's some potential energy because you're higher up. Right? And if you slip, you're going to fall, you're going to hurt yourself. Okay.
So then you asked us to explain the first scenario in the sheet that you gave us?
Yeah.
So water can produce electricity. Water falls from the sky, converting potential energy to kinetic energy. This energy is then used to rotate the turbine of a generator to produce electricity. In this process, the potential energy of water in a dam can be turned into kinetic energy, which can then become electric energy.
Okay, so you presented two cases. One is water is evaporated by the sun, and it goes up into a cloud, and now it has potential energy, right?
Yeah.
And then when the relationship of the dispersion or the distance of the molecules of water decreases and they come closer together, and now they become heavier molecules. Now it's heavier than the air holding it up, then it starts falling as rain.
Yeah.
Right? But then you switch to another example of a dam. So how's the energy build up in the dam?
So
How does that, the rain fell down on the ground, so it spent its potential energy. So how does the dam build up its potential energy?
So basically when the water falls from the sky, it gets collected in these lakes and rivers, and the dam's job is to stop limit the flow of the river, so that it can take energy from the movement of the water.
Yeah, well, there's two things happening. Yeah, rain is falling down, but snow on top of the mountains is melting, and it's starting to flow, right? And water always flows to the lowest point. So it's coming down the mountain and going lower and lower, and all of a sudden they put a dam. So they're stopping it, right?
Yeah.
They're stopping there's kinetic energy, but all the kinetic energy hasn't been spent. Now they're stopping it. And then there's another issue is they're stopping a huge amount of water. It's not a normal amount because rivers flow, right? They're doing something abnormal. They're stopping the flow of the river. So that now all that kinetic energy becomes that hasn't been spent yet becomes potential energy because they stop the natural flow of the water. And so there's tremendous weight. Like water is actually heavy. Right? Oil is lighter than water. Did you know that?
Yeah, because it floats.
It floats. So water is actually heavy. Like if you fill a bucket with water, the 5-gallon bucket, and you try and lift it, it's heavy. If you fill a 10-gallon bucket, it's even heavier. If you fill a 50-gallon bucket, you can't lift it. It's hard to move. You need machinery to move it. Right? I mean, you can move it, but it's very hard. So you can't lift it up.
Yeah.
It's too heavy. So we see you don't have 5 gallons or 50 gallons in a dam. You have millions of gallons. Just imagine how heavy it is, right? So now if you just open up a little hole, all that pressure of that weight and plus all that built up potential energy just rushes into the turbine and forces it to turn, right? And then that produces electricity. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So, in any situation like the one above, it is important to understand that the energy is neither created out of nothing nor is it destroyed, because all the energy is going somewhere in the system. So, how does a car use the energy from gas to move?
Okay, now listen to this. This is a pretty good explanation.
The key system in a car which causes it to move is the internal combustion engine.
That means it's combustion driven. And combustion means there's an explosion. So it's explosion, like a volcano is an explosion, right? And the car moves due to explosions. Go ahead.
The internal combustion engine is the engine which generates the kinetic energy of the car from the burning of fuel such as gasoline. This is a very simple explanation of how the energy is converted. However, there are many other minute energy transformations which happen in this complex system to make the big shift between potential energy in gas and the kinetic energy in the car. It all starts with the gas. When a person goes to fill their car with the gas, they're filling the gas tank, which is the reservoir of the gas. Once a person turns on the engine and hits the acceleration pad, the gas is moved to a machine called the carburetor through a fuel pump.
Okay, how's it moved? Oh yeah, through the
fuel pump.
Yeah.
The carburetor mixes.
So how does the pump move?
Well, I couldn't figure out how that works.
It's due to the electricity stored in the battery.
From the battery of the car, yeah.
Battery of the car.
So the carburetor mixes the gas with air, making it an explosive mixture. This explosive mixture...
This is all inside the car...
Inside the
piston.
Yeah. Well, it's
piston
it's
chamber. Yeah.
Well, it's inside the carburetor, and that is
sorry.
linked to the pistons.
Okay.
So...
But the explosion doesn't happen in the carburetor.
It doesn't happen in the carburetor.
Yeah, otherwise it'd blow up the car.
So this explosive
That happens
mixture,
sometimes.
Yeah.
That happens sometimes, yeah.
This explosive mixture is transferred to the cylinder piston system. The combination of the gas and air in the cylinders are ignited by an electric spark, which causes an explosion.
So that's from the spark plug.
Yeah.
Right, so you have a spark plug that produces a spark. You have the air. The air and the gas don't mix in the carburetor, I don't think. Do they?
They add it in the carburetor, and then...
Yeah, but if they mixed in the carburetor, it would blow up in the carburetor. They have to push the air and the gas separately into the piston chamber, and then the spark comes and it blows, and the explosion takes place.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the combination of the gas and the air in the cylinders are ignited by an electric spark, which causes an explosion. So far, the potential energy in the gas has been turned into potential energy in the cylinder, which has been turned into chemical energy through contact with the air, and kinetic energy through the explosion caused by the contact. And chemical energy is when you have chemical reactions. So the constantly paced...
chemical reaction is you produce carbon monoxide, by that explosion. So we're producing carbon dioxide, and then we exhale it. We have to get rid of it. Otherwise, we get poisoned. You know, if you sit in a car, close the windows, and connect a hose from the exhaust pipe into, let's say, through one of the windows, through a small hole in the window, and you just sit there, you will die. Because that carbon monoxide, instead of going out into the air, comes into the car, and eventually you suffocate and die. There's no oxygen. Yeah, go ahead.
So the constantly paced explosions in the cylinder cause the piston in the cylinder to move up and down. Most of the times, cars have several pistons to increase efficiency and pickup. The piston, which is connected to a rod, causes a system called a crankshaft to move. So the purpose of the crankshaft is to turn the up and down kinetic energy of the piston into a rotary kinetic energy.
So that would be mechanical.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what your mechanical energy is coming. That's why, yeah. Go ahead.
The crankshaft system is connected to the wheels of the car through a series of gears, causing the wheels to move. So, in this section of the internal combustion engine, the motion energy in the piston is transferred to the motion energy of the crankshaft to move, transferring kinetic energy to the wheels of the car.
See, it's complicated.
Gopi Paranadhana Madana Manohara Gopi Paranadhana Madana Manohara Kaliya Damana Vidana Amala Harinamamiya Vilasa Amala Harinamamiya Vilasa Vipina Purandara Navina Nagara Bora Bamsi Badana Suvasa Prajajana Palana Surakula Nasana Prajajana Palana Surakula Nasana Nanda Godana Rakovala Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundarananda Gopala Jamuna Tatachara Gopi Basanahara Rasa Rasika Kripa Moya Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Shri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabara Bhakti Vinoda Shaya Yashomati Nandana Brajabara Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana Jayo Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Jayo Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Jayo Sita Ram Jayo Sita Ram Jayo Sita Ram Jayo Lakshman Hanuman Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha Jayo Jagannatha, Jayo Jagannatha, Jayo Baladeva, Jayo Subhadra. Jayo Gauranita, Jayo Gauranita, Jayo Gauranita, Jayo Gauranita. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jayom Vishnu Pada Parama Hamsa Parirajan Chariki Roji, should I finish? So, when one wants their car to go faster, they hit the gas pedal. The gas pedal flips a little tab inside the carburetor, which monitors the flow of the gas into the cylinders. The more the gas, the faster the pistons move.
Where does the air come from?
The air?
Yeah.
In the carburetor?
Yeah.
Well, it moves up and down, so it kind of gathers air, like the top of the carburetor. Like,
Huh? There's an air pump also, right? Yeah. Haribol. There's an air pump
there's an
also,
air
as
pump.
well as there's a gas pump,
Yeah.
right? Because if it mixes in the carburetor, the whole thing will blow up.
Yeah.
Right.
So therefore, when someone hits the gas pedal, the tab flips out of the way, causing.
Listen carefully.
So therefore, when someone hits the gas pedal, the tab flips out of the way, causing the flow of gas to increase. This is how one can control the output of the system. And I also printed out some pictures.
Oh.
So if you can see, these are the pistons, these are the cylinders, that's the carburetor, and it's connected to each of the cylinders. And this is the gas tank and the fuel pump. So basically, you're filling your car with gas, it's going in here. When you turn it on, the fuel pump turns on, and that starts by the battery, and that goes into the carburetor. And then this is a close-up of the carburetor, and it shows how when you hit the gas, there's this little tab which flips so that you can control.
So, I don't expect you to know all this, but I just want you to hear what Shrestha did. She did a more thorough explanation of how the car works. You did a good explanation. You explained the windmill, and you explained the car also, right? Yeah. She did it more thoroughly, you know. Okay. So what we're trying to learn is that there can be multiple steps of potential energy producing kinetic energy, which produces more potential energy, which produces more kinetic energy, and all these transfers are taking place. So what's the definition of the law of conservation of energy? Krishna. Yeah, don't tell me you didn't study it. That's why we're having this class. That's why I'm asking you the question. Because this is what usually happens. Even you learn something in your normal school, and basically you don't remember anything. You just know enough to pass a test. That's it. And then after the test, you forget everything. You know. Ria. Yes. What were you going to say, Arush?
Same thing, that you can change that.
Yes. You can transform it. Yeah. It can't be. Yeah. You want to say?
And also, energy is eternal.
And it's eternal. Yes. Okay. So did you understand that, Krishna? Let me hear you repeat that.
Something that can't be energy that can't be changed or destroyed. It can be changed. It can be changed. Yeah,
It can be transformed into what? Which are? And what? No, it's not stuff. What is kinetic energy? Huh? Now look, you're sitting in the class, you just heard 4 people who did their homework. You didn't do your homework, or you did your homework? Okay. So you just heard 4 people repeat the same thing. What is potential energy? What is kinetic energy? If you tell me you don't know, I'd say you're not listening. Does that make sense? So don't sit next to Madhav. Don't sit next to Agastya. Sit right over here so I can look at you directly. So, Madhav, can you tell me what is potential energy? What's kinetic energy? Okay, you sit right here. Can you tell me what is kinetic energy? What's potential energy?
Potential energy is when energy is stored inside an object because it's in a certain position.
Yes.
And kinetic energy is like when the energy is released, the object goes into motion.
It's produced by this motion. Yeah, yeah. So see, he knows, but you don't know, and he doesn't know, right? Because did you do your homework? No. Okay. But still, you could have taken notes when they were reading. 4 people read what it was, right? You could have taken notes rather than talking or just looking like this and like that or whatever, you know. So pay attention. What are we supposed to learn in class? We come to class to learn what? How to hear. If you learn how to hear effectively, then you will learn. And if you waste your time in the class not hearing, you won't learn anything. Okay? So you're coming here to learn how to hear. If you hear really good, then you'll learn really good. Okay, so today what we're going to discuss, I gave you a sheet, right? You want to take that sheet out? Do you have the sheet, Krishna? No, you came late. So here it is. You have the sheet? You don't have the sheet. Well, if I give you my sheet, then I don't have the sheet. So, okay. So today we're going to do what we didn't finish last week. That is, learn about the first and second law of thermodynamics. Now, this word thermodynamics, what does that mean? Thermo means heat, and dynamics means movement. So thermodynamics, there's a law. There are 3 laws of thermodynamics. We're going to learn 2 laws today. Can you repeat the word thermodynamics? Okay. The laws of thermodynamics. Okay, so, and we'll read from this sheet. It says, energy exists in many forms, such as heat, light, chemical energy, and electrical energy. And you also mentioned mechanical energy, right? But actually, these are the 4 real forms: chemical energy, electrical energy, heat, and light. Energy is the ability to bring about change or to do work. If you don't have energy, you can't do work. Right? So if you don't have gasoline in your car, it doesn't move. If you don't have electricity in your battery, it doesn't work. If you're not eating enough food, you lose your strength. And you can't really work hard. Right? You get weak. Most people die of malnutrition. Did you know that? It's not the disease. It's the malnutrition that's caused, that's a product of the disease. Yes?
And what is malnutrition?
That means not getting energy into your body and not eating properly. People get so sick they stop eating and then they die of malnutrition. Yes? Or they die of dehydration, but that's also food in a sense, you know. No, it's because of sickness. That's another way people die. There's a famine. There's not enough food. But you usually, older people, they die of malnutrition. That might be due to the sickness, or it might be due to psychological reasons or something, you know. Either they don't drink enough water or they don't eat enough food, and then they die. Yes?
Do more people die by starving than overeating? Because I've heard that more people die by overeating. Is that true?
Yes, that's true also. When you overdo anything, you get sick. If you drink too much water, you'll die. If you don't drink enough water, you'll die. If you eat too much salt, you'll die. If you don't eat any salt at all, unless you eat vegetables that contain natural salt, you'll die again. See? So everything is a balance in nature. And our body is part of nature, right? So, okay. So if you don't recharge your cell phone, it doesn't work. If you don't put gasoline in the car, it doesn't work. If you don't feed your cat, it dies, right? Okay, so energy exists in many forms, such as heat, light, chemical energy, and electrical energy. Energy is the ability to bring about change or to do work. Thermodynamics is the study of energy. The first law of thermodynamics. Okay, this is the first law of thermodynamics. Energy can be changed from one form to another, but it cannot be created or destroyed. So this is basically another way of stating the law of conservation of energy. Okay? But now it's more concerned about heat, which is a form of energy. The total amount of energy and matter in the universe remains constant, merely changing from one form to another. The first law of thermodynamics, or conservation, states that energy is always conserved. It cannot be created or destroyed. In essence, energy can be converted from one form into another. So, the example is, well, we already discussed examples, of potential energy and kinetic energy and transformations of energy. But you cannot create it, you cannot destroy it, which means it's eternal. It's already been created by somebody else, not by us. But it's created in such a way that it cannot be destroyed. That means it's spiritual. The material energy is actually spiritual, but it's an inferior spiritual energy because sometimes it's manifest and sometimes it's not manifest. So here's a point where science confirms what Krishna is saying. Right. Okay. Although they won't admit it, but it's a fact. If they say you can't produce, you can't create it, you can't destroy it, it means it's eternal. But how did it get there in the first place? And we're going to get to that through the second law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics says that in all energy exchanges, if no energy enters or leaves the system, the potential energy of the state will always be less than that of the initial state. Well, here's what it means. Let's say you have a rock that you heated up and made it like red hot, and you have another rock that's that you froze. You put them together, and they eventually both come to normal temperature by transfer of heat. Okay. So that's related to the conservation of energy, of the law of conservation of energy, right? There's a transfer taking place between the real hot rock and the really cold rock, and they'll both come to a normal temperature over time, right? Okay, so what does this mean? Like, for example, this is also commonly referred to as entropy, right? This is a new word now, E-N-T-R-O-P-Y. E-N-T-R-O-P-Y. A watch spring-driven watch will run until the potential energy in the spring is converted, and not again until energy is reapplied to the spring to rewind it. So nowadays you have digital watches, this watch, that watch. But previously there were normal watches, there's a little wheel that you have to turn, and it winds some spring inside of the watch. And that spring makes the watch work. It turns all the different dials in the watch, and it makes the hour hand move at a certain speed, and the minute hand move at a certain speed, and the second hand move at a certain speed. You have all these different wheels in it with what do you call those? Cogs, and one wheel moves and it makes another wheel move, but at a different speed, and makes another wheel move at a different speed. And it's all in this little watch, right? It's very complicated, right? And it's all because you're not putting electricity into it. In a digital watch, you put electricity into it. You need a battery. But in these original watches that were made in Switzerland, it's just a little wheel that on the outside of the watch. Have you ever seen that? You wind it, and then it makes the watch work. And when it starts slowing down, you wind it again. So it says here, a watch spring-driven watch. So it's spring-driven. Spring is that by winding it, you tighten up this like metal band, and then when you stop tightening it, then eventually starts loosening up. This is the law of second law of thermal energy. Or you're putting in potential, you're building up the potential energy of the spring, and then it's going to transfer that, it's going to start unwinding, and then it develops kinetic energy that it transfers to the other wheels. But the other wheels are made in such a way that by the number of cogs that they have, they'll move at different speeds. It's very interesting how they do these things, and they put it in a little case like that, and all you know is you wind it like this, but if you open it up, you'll see all these little wheels, and they're all moving at different speeds. One wheel is running the seconds thing. See, if you look at this watch, there's three things. There's the hour dial, there's the minute dial, and there's the second dial. The second dial is the red one that's turning quickly, and then the minute dial is longer one, and then the hour dial is a shorter one. And they're all moving at different speeds because inside there's this mechanism of wheels. But this watch has a battery to it. But the Swiss watches, there's this little wheel that you turn. Okay, so you're applying energy by turning the wheel, and it's tightening up the spring. It's building up its potential energy, and then when you stop turning the wheel, then it starts to loosen, and it makes other things turn. The other wheels turn at different speeds, and then your watch can keep time. Okay, so the second law of thermodynamics states that in all energy exchanges, if no energy enters or leaves the system, the potential energy of that state will always be less than that of the initial state. So that means this is also commonly referred to as entropy. A watch spring-driven watch will run until the potential energy in the spring is converted, and not again until energy is reapplied to the spring to rewind it. A car that has run out of gas will not run again until you walk 10 miles to a gas station and refuel the car. In other words, you got to go with a gas can, you got to fill it up with gas, you got to walk back to your car, you got to put the gas into the gas tank, and then it'll start again. Once the potential energy locked in carbohydrates is converted into kinetic energy in use or motion, the organism will get no more until energy is input again. In the process of energy transfer, some energy will dissipate as heat. Entropy is a measure of disorder. Cells are not disordered and so have low entropy. The flow of energy maintains order in life. Entropy wins when organisms cease to take in energy and die. So, this idea of entropy is based on ignorance. Entropy means disorder. So the scientists say if you put heat into a closed system, eventually the heat will it'll lose its energy over time, right? And it's by the molecules of the hot air expanding. And entropy is the amount of disorder. In other words, it entered as a concentrated hot air, and now it starts dissipating in the like the tank, the closed tank, and it eventually becomes disordered, and they call that entropy. It's counting the amount of disorder. It's calculating the disorder of all the molecules that were more compressed before and hot. Well, the law of entropy is violated in living biological organisms like a human being or like an animal. So instead of disorder, there's order, there's organization. Like when your body is being made in your mom's body, there's disorder is becoming ordered now. Molecules and atoms that are dispersed here and there, they're coming together and making something specific. And then while you're still alive and growing, there's more order rather than disorder. So biological systems seem to violate the law of entropy. The law of entropy says that over time, everything expands and becomes disordered. But in biological systems, it's the opposite. Over time, if there's a life force coming from the soul, everything gets ordered, right? So your nose doesn't change every minute, right? It looks more or less the same. Over time, it might change somewhat, but it still looks like a nose, right? So it's being maintained. See, but they say that the second law of thermodynamics means that the universe is getting disordered over time. Actually, that's based on ignorance, because now we're going to understand why I say that. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna says, and when I write these verses down, because you're going to do your homework, you have to know these verses. So write this down. Ready? Srimad Bhagavatam 1-2-30. So it says, in the beginning of the material creation, now this is the material creation, is the spiritual world created? Arush? No. 1.2.30. That means Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse number 30. So Arush, your answer is? No. So what does that mean?
It was always there.
It's eternal. Right? It was not created. Are the jivas, you and me, are we created? No. Why? Yeah, and we're part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is eternal. Was our body created? Yes. Right. That means it can die. But anything that's not created will not die. Because your soul is not created, it's eternal, it's never going to die. Only the body dies. So, it says, in the beginning of the material creation, now we're not talking about the spiritual world, we're talking about the material world, the absolute personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, in his transcendental position, created the energies of cause and effect by his own internal energy. Now you see, Krishna is the reservoir of all energies. And there's three major types. There's internal energy, there's marginal energy, and there's external energy, right? So what is the internal energy? Probably you know. Can you give an example of internal energy? Where is it? First of all, is it eternal or is it temporary? No. This is Krishna's internal energy in the spiritual world. right? So it's eternal, right? What is the marginal energy? Yes. Yeah, like you and me, right? We are the why are we called marginal energy? Huh? No. We can go either. Marginal means something in the middle. We can go either way. We can either go toward the spiritual energy or go toward the material energy. Right now, we all chose to go toward the material energy. That's why we're here, and not in the spiritual world, right? But the soul is part of Krishna's internal energy. But because of free will, write that word down, free will, Freewil, we can use our eternal soul either for sense gratification or for Krishna's service. That's why we're called marginal. We can go either way. And then there's the external energy. What's the external energy, Ria? Well, the internal energy is spiritual energy, right? It's eternal. What's the external energy? Yes. Yes. Is it eternal or temporary? No, it's eternal. Why? What's the law of conservation of energy? And therefore it's eternal. Right? But, according to the law of conservation of energy, what happens to the material energy? It can be transformed, right? You got it? Okay. All right, so here he says that in the beginning of material creation, Krishna created cause and effect by his own internal energy. So, this cause and effect is very interesting. Is there cause and effect in the spiritual world? Is there cause and effect? What do you think? Is there cause and effect in the spiritual? Arisha? Is there cause and effect in the spiritual world? No, because everything's eternal. There's only cause and effect in the material world. Of course, Krishna is the original cause of everything, spiritual and material. But because everything is eternal in the spiritual world, besides Krishna, there's no other cause. No other cause. Okay, so this cause and effect in the material world confuses people. They're always confused by it. Like the scientists are trying to find the original cause of material creation. Have they found it? No, they talk about black holes, they talk about Big Bang, they talk about this, they talk about that. They're all guesses. They're not factual. Yeah.
When I tell the people, like, there are a bunch of atheists in my school and they admit that they're atheists, that's why they don't say under God in a bunch of religions. So then I try to tell them that it's pretty stupid, but then they would also say, like one person also said this to me, that the idea of some living thing controlling all of us is stupid.
But yet, they're being controlled all the time by their parents, by the school teachers, by the government. So is that stupid? So you say, look, you're controlled all the time. And those people who are controlling you, they're also controlled. They're controlled by time. They're controlled by the modes of material nature. They're controlled by the three types of miseries that they're forced to suffer. And if they're controlled by those laws of nature, well, laws are made by lawmakers, right? The Congress of the United States makes laws. The legislatures in the states make laws. And the police make sure that the laws are followed. But the people that make laws, they're also subject to laws. So there's a bigger lawmaker than the people who make laws that are controlling the atheists as well as everybody. So how can they say there's no one behind, no lawmaker behind the universal laws? Science is based on the fact that nature is acting in a rational, organized way. That's why they discover laws like the law of conservation of energy, the law of gravity, and the laws controlling electromagnetism. So, otherwise there wouldn't be science. If nature was acting completely without following any patterns, it'd be random, they would not be able to have science. They only have science classes because there's a superior scientist who made these laws of nature that they're discovering one by one, little by little. You see? So if you understand, if you listen carefully, you can defeat these atheists in your class. They're all being regulated by superior authorities. And those superior authorities, to them, like teachers and police and parents and things, they're also subject to laws, right? Not only the laws of the state made by politicians, but the laws of nature. Right? And if they're studying science, it's because nature is functioning in a rational, organized way. Right? That means there's some lawmaker behind all this. I mean, the law of conservation of energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can be transformed, but it can't be created or destroyed. So therefore, all this has been set up by a superior scientist. These are all scientific things. Higher science than what our scientists have been able to find so far. They're simply finding something that a bigger scientist has made. And that bigger scientist is God. He's a bigger intelligence than anybody in this world. So if you learn this, you can defeat them easily in any discussion. And if you don't listen in the class, they'll defeat you and you'll become an atheist. You understand how it works? Okay. So you better listen. This pertains to your life right now. It's more important. This education is more important than the education you're getting in school. So do you say in God we trust when there's the Pledge of Allegiance? Yeah, you better. Yeah. One day you'll be the only one saying it in your class. That's how bad things are getting. Okay, so your homework. Oh, now there's a second verse. Let me read that. Second verse is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9. Verse 21. 1:9:21. So to do your homework, which is, your homework is going to be using these two verses. Show how the first and second laws of thermodynamics exist only because of Krishna's expansion as Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. Using these two verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam, explain how the first two laws of thermodynamics exist because of Krishna's presence in every atom and in the heart of every living entity as Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. So you have Garbhodakshaya, you have Mahavishnu or Karanadakshaya Vishnu, you have Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, you have Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. So you have to know who Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is. That's explained in 1:9:21. Okay, and we've gone over this many times. So now we're going to see the direct relationship between the first and second laws of thermodynamics that you will study one day when you get in more advanced science classes, and Krishna. Of course, they'll never tell you that in school, but So we studied the law of conservation of energy, and we discovered how the source of all energy is sun, and the source of the energy of the sun is the Brahma Jyoti, and the Brahma Jyoti is the glow coming from the body of Krishna. Right? So Krishna is the source of all energy, spiritual and material. And now we're going and studying the laws of thermodynamics. There are 3 laws. We only studied 2 of them today. But those 2 depend on the fact they only exist because Krishna is present as Paramatma, or Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, in the heart of every living entity and every atom of the universe. Okay, you have your homework, and that's for tomorrow, right? Okay, Hari Bol. So is this helping you in your science class, Krishna? You already studied law of conservation of energy in your science class, and you forgot it, right? You just do it to pass the test. But here you're learning it in a much more thorough way. But if you don't listen, you won't learn it here either, and you'll flunk